Welcome to the Stats on Stats Pod, yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is where we banter, but we already bantered. Apparently,
Yeah,
cool. But yeah, John, it's super cool to have you here. Like I said, it's nice to officially meet you, put a face to the name. I mean, are you ready for what's about to happen?
Yeah, sure. I'm ready.
So do you know what happens before we actually jump into the questions?
I do not know what happens before. I'm gonna be surprised right now.
Oh man, your team set you up, huh?
I guess so.
All right, so we're gonna be playing a game called That's My Jam, 90s R&B edition.
Oh wow. they did tell me about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was gonna say they played you. I was like, what is it? It's been like two people now. But okay, so here are the rules. We're gonna play 4 covers of 90s R&B songs. Right? You have until the end of the song to guess either the name of the artist or the name of the song, and you have 2 to 3 guesses. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, how deep is your 90s R&B knowledge?
I don't know. We're about to find out, but I'll say that that I'm very competitive. So let me make sure I understand the rules. Right? So you're not going to play the whole song, right? It's just part of the song.
Yeah, okay, just part of it.
And it's
they are
covers. It's a cover of the song.
Yes.
It's a cover of the song, so it's not even the real artist. Wow,
yeah.
This is going to be tough. Okay, I'm ready.
And if you decide you want to use ChatGPT, who are we to stop you?
Use your tools.
You mean
yeah.
I would use Shazam way before I use ChatGPT. I want to get to the answer.
Period. 100. All right, cool. Let's get to it. Song number 1, please.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you.
Oh, I know the song.
You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true.
Wow, I can't
take my eyes off of you.
It has to be.
Heart in the way that I stay.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I want to say Whitney Houston, but that's what I want to say. But I probably cannot be right.
Close. I mean, kind of close. It's a female artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a female artist. So I know who it is, but I honestly don't know the name of the song. We didn't actually know what songs were picked for this episode, but it is Lauryn Hill. Do you remember the name of the song?
Oh.
She doesn't remember either. What's the name of the song, Anthony?
I don't even know.
Okay, awkward. It's fine. The artist is Lauryn Hill.
So you get a point.
Nah. But okay, song number 2. This is gonna be rough.
Oh, it's Can't Take My Eyes Off You.
Oh, Can't Take My Eyes Off You by Lauryn Hill.
I almost said that too, but I was like, that's just too trite. Okay. Anyway,
yeah, just throw it out there. You got 2 to 3 guesses. All right, song number 2, please.
Here we are, all alone, you and me, privacy, and we can do anything, your fantasy. I want to make your dreams come true.
I like this one.
Can you hear? She's calling me.
I don't know the song.
Between your legs.
To be honest, I don't either. What is it?
Make love to her.
It sounds nice.
I want to hear you scream my name.
On top of the bed. Okay.
I don't know. I'm hitting a wall here. I have two more songs.
You got 2 more songs.
Tell me what this one is.
Yeah, Tiffany, who is it?
All I got is 112.
It's 112. There you go. That's all we needed. It's 112.
That's all you need.
Yes,
okay.
It's Anywhere.
Yes, Anywhere. Okay, it's Anywhere by 112. All right, song number 3.
You said you'd be here by 9. Instead, you took your time. You didn't think to call me, boy. Here I sit.
Who was the first artist that you guessed?
Look at you, just
asking myself why.
Whitney Houston.
There you go.
Oh my God.
don't stop the song.
Oh.
See?
Sorry.
All
Yeah,
right, all
it's
right.
like 90s. I feel like 90s were like where I was like listening to way more music than I think I listen to now, and I'm just a little surprised. I just don't know this stuff. I feel like I lost a whole part of my. I mean, just getting older. Maybe I'm just forgetting, or maybe I don't know. Let's keep
I
going.
What's bizarre is it wasn't until recently that I realized I was old. When I started seeing those videos of the guys who were like, I was born in the 90th year of the 1900s. And I'm like, no. but,
Right.
but all right, we got one more song, song number 4.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my
We just played
eyes
this one,
off of
didn't we?
You're
you.
too good to be true by Lauryn
Actually,
Hill.
Sorry, that was my fault.
no, I think.
I get 2
Was
points.
that the
I
fourth
get-
song?
Yeah. I
Okay.
can add another one real quick.
No, it's
Hold
cool.
on.
He got it.
No, I'm joking.
We'll do duplicates. He got it. 2 out of 4.
You can listen and then recant it. Okay.
Yes, it's totally fine.
Good
All
job.
right,
Good
cool.
test.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and jump into. Oh, by the way, I mean, you got 2 out of 4. That's better than like his whole team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. To make sure that's bragging rights right there. But all right, we can go ahead and get into the reason people actually come here. If it's your first time, welcome. If you already know the vibes, welcome back. I'm Jordan, aka the Chosen One, aka Big Stepper, and I'm here with my co-host.
I am Tiffany B. We're excited to have you here for this episode where we get to talk to leaders in the IT, technology, cyberspaces. Speaking of those leaders, we have someone with us today who is going to tell us who he is, where he's from, what he does, and how long he's been in the space. Take it away.
Oh, is that for me? Okay.
Pass the mic.
All right. So there's a whole list in there. So let me start with my name. My name is John Carse, and I've been doing cybersecurity since 2003. And before that, I was in IT. I started my IT career back in '89, doing my own things I had my own business in '89 through like '93. And then I started working for Apple and IBM, and eventually went through a couple different smaller companies, and started working with the U.S. Navy in 2003, which is how I got into cyber. And I'll tell you honestly, I was doing IT work at the time, and they asked to build some system that they wanted to have, and then they told me at the very end that they needed it to be secure, and I was like, what are you guys talking about? And then they started telling me about all my deficiencies that I had in my system, and I said okay, and started looking at the details, like, hey, what's going on? What are they asking me to do with the system? And that's how I got into cybersecurity, is like trying to secure that system. And I was, motivated because they said I wasn't going to get paid until it was secure. So I started figuring out how to secure it, and then just kind of fell in love with the processes. And part of it was just because one of my systems I put online to so I could work wherever I was got hacked, and I had to go back and figure out what happened. And as a result of all the stuff that I had done, I was able to figure it out. And I think that's what really kind of hooked me, is like just having the information available to fix the problems got me hooked. I started working for big bank, JP Morgan Chase, and security operations in like 2014, after the work I did with the Navy that took me to Japan and then to the Middle East and Bahrain. Went to New York and built up their security operations center in New York City, and then from there went to work for an MSSP, and then to Expedia, where I was an interim CISO for a couple of years, and then I went from Seattle area to Japan and worked for a company called Rakuten, and was CISO for 2 other companies, Rakuten Mobile and Rakuten Symphony. And then before coming to SquareX, I was the CISO for Dyson, the ones that with the fans, and vacuums and hair dryers and stuff like that. And that was in Singapore. And then I moved back to the States in December, just December 2024. So I've been back in Houston for the last 6 months or so, and working with SquareX now.
Nice.
I'm not sure, Tiffany, if I got all the questions, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you got it.
All I hear right now in my head is been around the world and
Yeah. No, I spent 15 years. So far, I think I've spent like a good portion of my career, like 15 years in Asia, 9 years in Japan altogether, and a couple years in Singapore, a couple years in the Middle East, but New York City and Seattle. So both coasts. Yeah, I've been around the world. Aye.
Coast to coast, John. I have a question. Then Tiffany's going to get to the hard hitting questions.
Okay.
But I mean, so everyone wants to know: you ever meet Steve Jobs?
No, I never met Steve Jobs. I did work for Apple. When I was at Apple, Steve Jobs had left, and then he had not come back in. I had left Apple before he came back, but I was also I was in Austin. I would have had to been in California to actually see him.
Oh,
But no,
okay,
I
that
did
makes
not.
sense.
I would love to have had. I mean, I think he was my first computer was, I forgot my first computer in 1982, and it was an Apple computer. And, I think my 12-year-old John was like, I want to work for Apple. And then I got a Mac, and then, my first real job for a corporation was at Apple. So he was inspiring to me.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, let's do this. Let's go back to before you were a worldwide traveler doing security strategies for global enterprises. And let's talk about the very first thing that sparked your interest into technology. Was it a first computer? Was there a pivotal mentor? Or was there some security issue that that piqued your interest?
No, I mean, I'm much older than y'all. I was born in the 1970, right? And so I grew up in a time when there was no computers around when I was growing up till 10 years old or so. And then, my school had a computer in the library, and it was a Commodore PET. And this is, I can't even tell you what year this was, but it was like, maybe 81, 82, somewhere in that time period, right? Somewhere in that area. And this, there's just one computer, and you had to, sign up for it, and you had to have a break in your school, and you were asked to go, you could go to the library and use the computer. And that was really interesting. But really what sparked my interest was a friend of mine across the street. He had went to see his cousin and came back and was super excited about the Apple II computer that his cousin had. And then he, campaigned his parents to get a computer, and he eventually got a computer. And then he and I spent an incredible amount of time working on his computer. And then I begged and cajoled my parents and campaigned to get a computer. And my dad finally relented, and for Christmas I got a computer. And then I spent all my time on computers. I think before that I played football and sports and those kinds of things. Spent a lot of time outside. And then all of a sudden, I'm like on a computer. I'm like sitting there all the time on my computer. And I think that's what really, I was interested in computers, but I think that the real hook was I had a modem as well. And I don't know if, modem was what we used to use to connect to the internet, using, copper phone lines. And yeah, exactly. Loud noises and stuff. And so there was a whole community of people that were online, that were on bulletin board systems, BBSs, and interacting with those people and the community, and having more people to talk to about computers and what was going on with them, et cetera. That whole community, I think, is really what drew me into technology. I mean, it was computers I was interested in, interested in programming. I think the greater community actually was what hooked me.
It was like Reddit before Reddit.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird. It was all text, and people would like, because you're on the other side of a modem, and it's not different than it is on the internet today, where people just what we called them flame wars at the time, where people would just start attacking someone because of something they wrote in a post and stuff. And it's very, very much like the internet today on a lot of different forums. Not places I go because it just what. Anyway, but yeah, it was the big community, but it was good. It was definitely somewhat like Reddit.
Okay, it's good to know.
Maybe a little bit more rough. All right, so
I'm like, it's good to know cyberbullying is not a new thing.
cyberbullying has been going on bullying has been going on as long as people get into the same area, and it doesn't matter if it's physically or mentally. There's going to be bullying, so I'm gonna watch out for that.
That's funny.
You talked about how during that time, computers weren't necessarily commonplace. So I feel like everything during that time, especially for you, was a learning experience. Can you share any vivid memories that you have, or at least one vivid memory you have from that time, or a challenge that still shapes how you see technology and approach challenges today?
Absolutely. I think that it's really important to understand that nothing had manuals. I mean, there was a bookstore in downtown Houston that I would, beg my dad to take me to, Brown Bookstore. And I would go there just to go find a magazine that had anything about computers at all. Right. And those, they would have like basic programs written in it and stuff like that. These really thin magazines that seemed to be expensive, as what I recall as them being expensive magazines as well. And most of the software that you would get had no manuals. So, you're just getting a piece of software. You're hoping it has an H button because there weren't graphical interfaces. It was all mostly command line and then bit graphics that were going on the screen. There was no mice. And so you would just like have to hit buttons to kind of figure out what was going on. And it was just always trial and error, so you could figure out how the software worked. And this was like video games, terminal software for my modem to get into things and to use my modem and figuring it out. I mean, I remember having to hack cords, like make my own cables so that my computer could connect to my modem, and then, soldering things on my keyboard and into my motherboard so that I could like put an NMI switch so I could do non-maskable interrupts, so I could break into a program. And this is like learning how to hack software and that kind of stuff. It was just very hunt and peck, trial and error kind of things that were going on. And I think that experience, right, of having to figure it out before there was Google, before there was the internet, really helped me in my growth in IT and in cybersecurity, because I'm, was always curious. I always want to know how things are working. You had to have a lot of persistence to kind of figure out how things were going. I developed a really strong sense of what was possible with a computer, what was not possible with a computer. And, talking to hackers and other people online, at that time, was inspiring. There was some inspiration in it as well. So there's, and I think in my, and I haven't thought about this in a long time, but in my career today, it's very much, I very much continue to do that into my career today. If you saw my little office, it looks nice behind me, but it's like, let's see, I have like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis over here, and I have a whole Kubernetes stack over there with firewalls and stuff. And I'm always hacking and watching YouTube videos and continuously learning about technology, because I've always loved technology. And I think that curiosity and not having anything no crutches, I would say, like, I mean, I feel like Google's a crutch. You know, man, Chat GPT is going to ruin people's brains. It's going to be a huge crutch. It's great if you know what you're doing with it, but it's just worries me about it. I wonder what's going to happen. But I think that those things have allowed me to, when it's time and things seem difficult or confusing or whatever, is just keep going, just figure it out, just little bits, right? I remember we used to troubleshoot when I was one of the jobs I had after Apple. We were trying to troubleshoot why something wasn't working. And I remember getting the first packet sniffers on the network. And there was, again, these were big companies like Oracle Database and some other Microsoft, Windows NT back in the mid 90s. And we're trying to figure out like why this wouldn't work. And we had got a packet sniffer, and this packet sniffer was as big as a suitcase and more heavy than a suitcase, because it was huge, and you're plugging this thing in the network and you're watching packets go back and forth, and you're trying to figure out like what is actually happening so you could troubleshoot a problem. There was nothing that you were going to do that was going to answer the question. You're just going to have to look at the bits and figure it out. Like, what is this communication protocol? Everything was in clear text then. No one secured anything that was on the wire at the time. So you could just see what was going on in the traffic. And then you could kind of start to figure out like what was going on. And again, it was a different way of definitely a different way of working than we do have today.
It sounds like tech people were moving around like roadies. Like you guys had your brick phone in one hand, your packet sniffer in another hand, just like
yeah. And the packet sniffer was like a suitcase. It was huge. It was this very heavy device. And there was a company called Compaq eventually was bought by HP. And it was one of their first portable computers, and it was portable. That was true. You just needed a hand cart to carry it around with you.
Portable.
Portable.
I actually wanted to touch on something that you said, because as you're talking about kind of your journey into tech and there not being manuals and really having to use critical thinking skills, having to really lean into your curiosity, it actually makes me think there's been an attack on critical thinking since forever then, right? Because as things become simpler and more efficient, it requires us to do a little less digging. It requires a little less, to be honest, it requires a little less curiosity, because we're not essentially starting from the very, very foundation. Just, innately, we're not there yet. So from everybody's perspective here, especially with the evolution of ChatGPT, how do we keep the tech community or just society in general from becoming stunted in regard to like innovation or just like tech advancement? I mean, that question's for the room. Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts are, I had conversations, as we were, ChatGPT came on the scene. I'm a proponent of ChatGPT, by the way, from a business perspective. What you can do with it is going to be transformative to business and industries, and it's going to be transformative. It's being transformative already, right? But as we get our feet underneath us and we start running with it, we're just at the very beginning. We're at the beginning of a marathon on this. It's going to be another. It's going to be life-changing for the next generations.
Yeah, for sure.
I really do believe that. I think that when we were looking to adopt it at my last company, at Dyson, it was a hard sell to kind of like get it in place, mainly because we were having questions about, and in particular from lawyers, about like, hey, how do we protect ourselves from these things, which are really great questions, right? But one of the just from what you said and my experience with it, one of the questions that one of the lawyers asked me was, well, what if it, what we call hallucination? What if it doesn't give you the correct answer? And I'm like, well, isn't this like dealing with every human in the world? I mean, every time you have a question with someone, don't you wonder if they're telling you the truth, or you're spending some time making discernments when you're talking to a human? You don't believe everything every human tells you, Why would you believe everything that this, chatbot's telling you, right? But it came down to critical thinking. Are you able to ask questions and get answers? Is it the right question? Right? And is it the right answer? Does the answer make sense? Can you ask follow-up questions? Can you change your questions and get a different response? If someone's telling you something, I mean, I don't, and maybe as a cybersecurity person, I love the zero trust stuff because it's like embodies my soul here. It's like, I don't trust you.
You got trust issues, John? Is that what you're?
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you just watch what, and like I said, talking to people at an early age that were hacking on everything and cracking code and doing all that kind of stuff. You start to think, okay, there's a group of people out here that are just not on the, on the, in the narrow path, and just generally, we all have ignorance gaps and stuff. So it's like, you gotta, trust and verify, trust but verify.
Oh yeah, facts
But
for
I think
sure.
but I think that from a critical thinking perspective, I do think it's becoming easier. Anything that makes your life easier and gets you farther away from the technology or whatever it is that makes it more abstract, makes it easier to consume. Right? I mean, software programming is so much easier today than it used to be. But because of that, because we have so many libraries, I mean, available to us to write programs, I mean, our lives are incredibly easy from a programming perspective when you don't have to write every single function to do everything that a computer is going to go do. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but I think that what's lost in translation is the, underlayments of like what's actually happening. And, but again, critical thinking. I think critical thinking is going to be something that we're just going to we should be getting better at. But I think it's easier not to be a critical thinker today than it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. Tiffany, I'm gonna throw that question to you as well. What are your thoughts?
Can you ask the question again?
How do you feel as technology advances and it continues to make things easier, and essentially it kind of promotes, whether intentional or not, it kind of promotes us to lean in, and it causes us to get further away from the actual fundamentals in terms of our critical thinking skills? How do you think it's going to be impacted when it comes to innovation and things like that in the future?
Well, in terms of innovation, I feel like this is going to make, innovative processes a bit more efficient. Or I don't want to say easier, but a bit more efficient, right? Because you don't have to rely fully on yourself to be, okay, I have this extent of creativity, but I'm using this tool in order to expand my knowledge and expand my thinking. So in terms of innovation, I think we're going to continue to press forward. We just have better tools in our toolbox in order to take us that direction.
It's going to accelerate. It's going to be faster, right?
Absolutely.
Every abstraction makes the innovation accelerate faster. I agree with you.
Absolutely. And then with that, the critical thinking, we can't police the people in tech or cybersecurity.
Yeah.
We can't police anybody. We can barely police the AI. We're talking about ethics all the time. So I feel like the critical thinking piece is going to come down to each individual person.
Okay.
Just like it did before with calculators, just like it did before with any other tool we added to our toolbox, it all comes back to a person being willing to make sure that they progress with the technology.
I like that. Good perspective from both.
I mean, the question came from you, but like, what are your thoughts?
I believe that everything you and John said is correct. That's what I think. All right, on to the next question.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about this because many people feel overwhelmed by just the vastness of cybersecurity. So many people trying to figure out what to do and where to go. So with all of that information that we have in front of us, what's one way you suggest that people find their lane without getting paralyzed by choice?
I mean, there's just so much, right? I mean, I think that if, cybersecurity is vast, and I think cybersecurity is vast because technology is vast, right? I mean, we just have so many places that we need to secure. And I think that's one of the aspects of cybersecurity that makes it challenging and makes it interesting, is that in a lot of our peer groups, right? Like if you're just thinking about like a normal IT company or a normal company, you have like product people that are developing and engineering new stuff that are going out to market, and they're on the more closer to the business side than they are the IT side. But executives are leaning in. They need to have like finance and accounting system, HR systems, so that they can support employees. And you kind of get into, just infrastructure management and network management, those kinds of things. If you just think about like how technology is being used in a company, some folks are directly on the value chain, and some people are on the cost side, right? People are, either on, I think that's clear. What's interesting about cybersecurity is that we don't have just one lane, right? We're not just software developers developing code on a Raspberry Pi that is going to go out to market, right? And they have a concentrated effort. And that's true for, installing and managing an accounting system, or installing and managing an email server, or installing and managing network equipment. Those folks that have that one function, they can deep dive into something. Cybersecurity people have to figure out, how do we secure all of it, right? So it's the business has a strategy, a technology strategy follows. And from my perspective, that's when the cybersecurity strategy starts coming in, is after the business has a strategy, technology is picking what they're going to do to go deliver that technology. And then you get into, how is it that cyber is going to secure it? And I think that's one of the most interesting things about cyber, is that we kind of have to be involved and interested in everything. But from my perspective, I think the right way to kind of grow into cyber is actually to start with any technology. Just start with something, right? Whether it's networking or systems or an operating system, and just focus on that. As you kind of move forward, just like if you kind of move forward from like, I have this operating system, I'm interested in Linux, I'm going to go start with that. Those skills you learn around securing that one system are going to be applicable to Windows. It's not going to be named the same, but it's going to be the same, because fundamentally these are Turing machines. It has a processor, it has memory. There's only so many things that you can do with, bits and or gates. That whatever you learn there is going to be applicable to the next system. And then you go up a level and you go start getting into networking. It's going to be additive to that. But I think you got to start with, one tech, understand it, kind of move on, right? There's lots of really good documentation, I think, from like the NSA and the DISA STIG guidelines about how to secure systems, that I think, and that explains why this is a configuration that you want to be thinking about. I think those are also things that will help you grow your understanding of why this is a question. I think that the work that the NSA did in the 90s and 2000s, I think, is so applicable to everything that we're doing today. So looking at that, I think, is another good approach to getting your, sea legs underneath you, and kind of moving forward.
How do you know someone has worked for the military? DISA, STIG. You left out POAM.
Yeah. You always have to have a POAM. That's too funny.
So let's run it back though a little bit. So I get to use my Urban Dictionary terms right now. All right. So you're an OG talking to a JIT, right? So you're talking to the youth. Say you're like at a career day or something like that, and they say, "Hey, Mr. John, I'm interested in getting into cybersecurity. What are 3 pieces of advice or 3 pieces of like insight that you would share with that kid? Say they're like, let's say 12. That sounds good.
Wow, 12. Wow, I don't even know how to. I have a 17-year-old and a 28-year-old. I'm not sure what I would tell a 12-year-old. But one of the things that I didn't do was let your. And is it related? Does it have to be related to cybersecurity? I think really
No.
people need to just figure out what they're interested in. I think for a 12-year-old, it's get interested. Be interested in something. I think that finding something that you're passionate about, I think is probably one of the most important things to do as you're when you're young and getting into your teens and into your tweens. I think figuring out what it is that you're passionate about is maybe one of the most important things to do. And hopefully that whatever it is that you're passionate about, you can earn a living on, right? But I think the second thing is like find something you can earn a living on, right? If I think this is what I told my older son. It's like, either love what you do or find something that makes a lot of money so you can enjoy your time off, right? Just figure figure that out, right? I think mostly I think people are kind of floating through life, but I think it's better to have some idea of what it is that you want to do. I think that's what's worked for me. I just happened to get into computers and it just happened to turn into a career. I mean, when I was growing up, the bullies were telling me I was a nerd and that kind of stuff because I played on a computer, but I also played football. But I landed into something I could become passionate about. I think that's maybe what people should be doing is figuring out what they're passionate about, something that's additive to society, that is also something they can really, energize themselves with. Because when I'm having downtime and I'm relaxing, I'm learning about computers, and it is sometimes frustrating, because not everything goes as easy as I want it to go. But at the same time, when I've figured out how something works, I get a dopamine hit because I've figured something out, and that just keeps me going. I think I'm probably more addicted to computers than I am passionate about it. But as long as you can find that kind of outlet, that energizes you, I think you're gonna be okay. But I think not sure about happy, but satisfied. Become satisfied with. I'm not saying, but something that makes you feel good about that you're doing it, right? That I don't know. I think that's probably what I would tell people. I think the other thing that I didn't, because I got so involved with computers early, is that people matter, right? When we head into computers and stuff, it's kind of you kind of have this input, stimulus response kind of mechanism that happens with the computers. I do something, computer, it gives me an immediate response. I do something, computer, it gives me an immediate response. And that's not how people work, right? Well, there is stimulus response. That absolutely is true. But the outputs may take longer to get through. It's harder to I would say, get along with people, right? Than a computer. But I think the people are the more important parts of your journey. And when I talked to my son about, as he was exiting college and looking for a job, I remember him telling me this story about what he expected of his employer, right? And what he expected of his job and all those kinds of things. And as an old person, he was telling me everything I did not want to hear, You know,
I don't care if you like it there.
yeah, well, I mean, it's more of, you know, I want my boss to stand, you know, sit with me and make sure I understand everything that I'm doing and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, man, I mean, that would be a hard job to have, is if I have like 8 people that work for me that I have to sit with all of them and tell them exactly what they need to do every day. I think that would be a difficult way to manage. So I was telling them 2 things, right? One is, you know, everything you said, don't ever say that again. Never repeat anything you just said. I'm a self-starter, and, you know, I'm a self-starter. If I don't understand, you know, I'll go figure it out. I think that's what people want. But you have to, those are skills that you have to build to, you know, be curious about the problems and go in and figure it out. So be persistent. And I think the other thing that I would tell younger people is that again, people matter. I mean, you don't know where you're going or the career trajectory you have. And this goes into, you know, there's still people that I'm connected to from when I was in, you know, middle school and high school that have impacted my life in a positive way well after I moved away from the neighborhood that I grew up in. And those relationships that you're building in your early parts of your career matter for forever. I think the only job that I got that I didn't know someone was my job at Apple. Every other position that I've had has been because of someone I know, right? It's not been because I sent out a resume to somebody and you know, someone responded. I think that, you know, I don't know if that even works. I mean, it must work. People do it, but I do think that, you know, the relationships matter. And I wish I had realized that earlier in my career, right? I probably burned way more bridges than I needed to, because expert power isn't what is necessary all the time. You know, I think relationship power is probably the better currency to use, you know, day to day in business.
Yeah, that's good advice. And you essentially you actually hit on 4 things. The 3 biggest ones being, right, self-starter, persistence, relationship building, and networking. But there was a piece of advice in there that I feel like is highly slept on. It's, you don't necessarily have to love what you do, but like it enough so that you make enough money so that you can do what you love to do. So I really like that, because that's a slept on piece of advice, right? We feed people, do it because you're passionate. Da, 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 da. Well, you might be passionate about rapping. That's not realistic.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah,
I really like that you touched on that.
Thanks.
There's something I heard in there that I would love to come back to. However, just because of time, I'm going to skip forward to make sure we get to the 3 questions.
Okay.
3 key questions. And if we have time, hopefully we get to come back to that, because I have a really big question about something you said. Okay. You are now CISO at SquareX. Mm-hmm. And they are at the forefront of the industry's first browser detection and response solution. As the CISO, what excites you most about being part of this journey, and also what's a moment or innovation at SquareX that makes you think this is exactly why I do what I do?
Well, I think that our industry's changed over the last 25 years or so. I mean, when I entered IT, everything was done. You know, you went to the office, you sat down at your computer, and you did your work, and you had a data center. So you had an office, you had a data center, and when we secured those systems, we were able to use certain kinds of technology to do that, right? And you know, we knew where the network traffic was going because it was going into our data centers that were protected by firewalls and IPSs and all those kinds of things. And that model worked pretty well into the middle 2010s, right? And we had this very moat around our castle, so to speak. And as we kind of moved into the 2010s and the cloud, we started changing how people worked. And we started, instead of having our own data centers, we lifted and shifted and we moved our data centers out to the cloud. And that availability of infrastructure really helped innovation kind of accelerate because I don't know. There's probably many people that can relate, but whenever you order something from Amazon, you get it the next day or a couple of days later, right? It's fast. In computers, it was never fast. You would say that you wanted a set of computers or servers and such, and it would take that lead time to get the computer would be months, 6 months, 9 months for it to get into your data center so you could rack and stack it and do whatever you're going to do, install operas, get the application working or whatever. So the long cycles to get technology in place. With the cloud, it's easy. You just say, I want a server, and you have a server. It's like seconds before you have a server that's on the internet, right? That acceleration of being able to get a virtual machine up and running fast really somewhat accelerated the kind of software that we could deliver to people faster. And we have SaaS apps and everything else that's going on. And this is also driving technology cycles within the browser. The browser's become a much more complicated piece of software than it used to be, right? It used to just be a simple website renderer, and now it has like its own memory management, CPU management, extension architectures. We have HTML5. We're in a application that allows us to do this podcast, and it's running in our browser right now. This was not something that was possible 10 years ago, right? So the innovation cycle is happening really, really quickly, and that has caused IT to deliver more and more software through SaaS apps on the cloud, which makes our network infrastructure and everything that we think that we know is pretty much an internet pipe with a bunch of people that have browsers that are connecting to all these different places to get to the applications that are going to make their business work. That created but the traditional security model of EDRs and proxies and IDS and IPSs, they can't see what's happening inside a browser or those network connections there because they're end-to-end encrypted, which we love from a security perspective, but we want our data to be confidential as it traverses the internet. But from a cyber person that's trying to defend a system, it's really hard to defend a system when you can't see what's going on in the system, right? So what I like about SquareX and as being CISO of SquareX is that what I noticed a year and a half ago or so was that I had definitely believed that the traditional security tools that were there were protecting me. But when I had an intellectual protection program to kind of figure out, I had like 144 line items that I had to go protect. I quickly figured out two things. One, that I didn't have as much visibility in what was going on in my network as I thought I did, right? Because the steering and EDR tools were effective when things got on the input, but they weren't really effective in the browser. And that people are able to sign up to SaaS apps just ridiculously fast. So where my data was getting all over the place. So as a CISO, you're kind of worried about two things. One is availability, right? You're worried about the business being able to continue to operate and transact so that income is coming in. So I'm always worried about availability, and I'm also worried about data breaches, right? And how those do I lose control of my data, whether that data is credentials or personal information or cardholder data, whatever, or confidential documents inside your organization. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's like those are the two big things that I think CISOs their job is. So if you think about you don't have visibility, and I'm very much intelligence data driven kind of person. When you don't have visibility, it's hard to say whether or not something's working or not, right? And so but then having this gap of visibility on where my data is somewhat concerning. So I think what is good about a browser detection and response solution is that it gives you that visibility in the browser where 80% of users' time is spent today. because that's where we're delivering software is via web apps and SaaS, over the web, over the internet, in a browser against a SaaS app. That's where people are working today, but we don't have a lot of visibility into it, right? So I think having a browser detection response capability allows you to do threat hunting, defend against attacks that are happening in the browser, and also control access to data, where your data is going, control where people are able to authenticate against you, what kind of permissions you're giving them, what extensions you're running. It gives you a whole bunch of capabilities around how to control that environment, because the browser is the new endpoint. It is what, I mean, we even have like Chrome web books that are saying, hey, you can do everything in the web, right? So anyways, long answer. Sorry.
No, that was good. It almost sounds like the SquareX secure web gateway diss track is what inspired you.
Yeah. But I think that it's really I think, being technical and understand like, hey, what's going on. Yeah, I was a little surprised that I didn't have that visibility. I thought everything was working, and then I learned that it wasn't. So now I'm like trying to figure out like, hey, how do we close that gap?
The browser is the new endpoint. I like that. I like that.
How has the industry changed over the past 25 years? And how have your experiences shaped you and prepared you for SquareX's mission?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, over the last 25 years, we've kind of gone from very closed, castle moats, defenders on the perimeter kind of security model where we knew where everything was, to this very distributed computing model where we're consuming applications in all these little cloud places that are out there. We just don't even know where. And the ability to control data and control how data gets to and from different systems has changed dramatically. So there are so many computers in the world today compared to when I was, starting in the industry, of course, and there are way more virtual machines, and there's way more containers, and there's way more, functions, software that, function as a service kind of capabilities that exist. I mean, there's so much innovation that's happened over the last 25 years. I think that where my background kind of lends itself to this is that I've been going along with it for a long time. So it's just been, I've learned more. I think I had a good base, but I was able to kind of consume it at the same rate as it was kind of happening. And I kind of understood, like, since I understood the fundamentals of how things were working, I think that that's made it easier to both, how do you use the technology to your benefit, but also how to defend those environments as well. I'm not sure I'm answering all the question, but
Yeah. Isn't it crazy to think about how at one point a family would have one computer to share amongst them, like the whole house, and now it seems like everybody has at least 2 to 3 computers, right? Because you've got your phones, your tablets,
Yeah.
your actual, your laptop. It's actually crazy to kind of think about.
yeah. And then the thing about your TVs, you have TVs that you're using that have Roku or Android TV or whatever, and all your little smart devices you have in your house, so you can tell Alexa to turn off the lights or whatever.
That's scary. That's scary, yo. I don't even want to think about it. I'm becoming one of them survivalists. Anyways.
Speaking about,
Maybe a prepper.
while we're talking about fears, John, every security leader has their own version of the 3 a.m. worry.
Okay.
So for you, what is it that keeps you up past midnight, that makes you wonder about how you can defend?
Yeah,
with?
I think that I remember asking a very enthusiastic gentleman who was working for me at one time. He was, I just joined the company, and I'd asked him, and he was like, I was like, how is everything? You have a new CISO here, and he's like, oh, everything's fine, everything's okay. I'm like, okay, everything's fine, everything's I mean, have we been breached? And he's like, no, okay, good. And he was like very, very positive about how we're safe, right? We're secure. And I never had that kind of confidence, right? That, hey, everything's going to be okay, right? My life would be easier. I'd probably have more hair if I was, I'd have probably less gray. But you're either breach or you're not breach, and either you know it or you don't know it, right? You're kind of in this little matrix, right? And it's like, okay, it's okay if you think we're not breach and that we're safe and secure. It's what is it about our technology? What is it about our processes that give you that confidence? And what I'm looking for is confidence, right? I'm looking for understanding data about what it is. I think what keeps me up at night is the unknown unknowns, right? It's like, what is it that you don't know that you haven't considered? Or, things that, all of a sudden, I learned that, hey, there's a new such and such that's been deployed in some other part of the business that, that my team didn't know about. I think those are what keep me up at night. So I tend to build systems that allow me to have enough information so that, I'm not surprised. Like I put a lot of systems in place so that I like attack surface management, like where I'm just using, as an example, Shodan to monitor the exterior of my network to see if anything else shows up. If something else shows up because I didn't know about it, then that's bad. If I can set up a process to go figure it out, I think that that's better. And hopefully, we catch things before they go out and harm us. But I think not knowing what's going on in my network keeps me more up at night. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've become passionate about browser security in particular. And one of the reasons why I joined SquareX was just because it was like, wow, this is a huge gap and no one knows about it. Right. And, trying to educate people on what this gap is and how do they get visibility and how they begin to control, this, new SaaS dominated world. I think that's what's been, again, gaps in information keep me up at night. Now I'm trying to close those gaps.
SquareX actually, speaking of browser security, SquareX actually offers a free browser security tool, right?
Yeah, there's a consumer version of it that's available on the Chrome Web Store that allows you to do things like remote browser isolation and kind of push what you think might be harmful content away from your computer so it doesn't get on it. Yeah.
That's sick. How can people access it?
Chrome Web Store.
Okay, straight up. Just search it, SquareX, just like that.
The Chrome Web Store, type SquareX, and it should show up.
All right, cool. Do you want me to say thank you now? Whenever she pauses towards the end of the episode, I'm like, do you want me to say thank you to wrap it up?
Yeah, you have no more questions?
No, I don't have any more questions at all, actually.
What was the question that you had that you wanted to come back around to, Tiffany?
Oh,
she forgot. I
know
her.
I didn't forget that one. And there's kind of a reason I didn't forget that. So you mentioned that when it comes to applying for jobs, oftentimes it's not necessarily everything you know. A lot of times it's who you know.
Yep.
When I think about cultures at an organization, they make it through the organization quicker when they're from top down. So when they have buy-in from above. So when I think about maybe Jordan's network or my network and the people we may know, and then I go to apply for a role. And the advice that I've been getting is it's about your network. It's about your network. Well, when you think about the future of any organization that you work for, and you think about being able to bring in people to your organization who are just like you were in the 80s, 90s, just trying to figure it out and understand what was going on with the computers, what would you suggest to teams and leadership and hiring managers about being able to, yes, hire people because they're in their network, but also being sure to be aware of people who may not have that network, but they're also going to bring value to that organization?
Ooh, you're like asking how to avoid nepotism.
Well, there's different, it's very rare, I think. I mean, it's not rare. I mean, I'm sure there's nepotism, and I definitely believe that there's probably a lot of people that hire their, direct contacts. I think it's more common for people to be introduced to someone that may be able to help them, right? Because it's very, I really haven't had, like, even as a hiring person, and I've had organizations that were up to 700 people. It's very rare that I have headcount, and then that headcount can be filled by someone I know. So I'm usually getting referrals from people that I know that know someone else, right? That can introduce me to someone that can help me with this problem. Because even if I know somebody, they may not be in a position to move overseas or move to a different state or move to a different city. So I even have to expand my network if I go, like when I'm in Singapore. I didn't know anyone in Singapore, right? So how do I hire people in Singapore, right? I have to go out and I have to network, and I have to start meeting people, and I start, but I'm looking for people to help me find people. But it's hardly ever, for me, in my experience, has been that I know someone and that person can do exactly what I need them to do, and they can go and they can show up right now. So what I would say, right, is that the most important thing you can do that is in your career that's hard to do is to get out, get away from your house, stop scrolling on your phone, and go meet people. Go to the cybersecurity happy hour. Go to events. I think you were telling me about Afrotech before the show started, right? Go to those events. Meet people. Be interested. Don't go and just say, hey, I'm looking for a job. Be interested in the relationship and the people, because when it's all said and done, just like when you buy something, you're looking for a relationship. People buy from who they like, right? And we like to sell to who we like, right? And so go be likable. Don't be transactional. Go find common interest, right? Look for that community that you want to be part of. Do you know what I mean? And I think that by doing so, one, you're expanding your reach, you're expanding your understanding of people and cultures and what makes, because there's definitely companies that, like, I'll never go work for again because their culture just doesn't work for me. But it doesn't mean that they have a bad culture. It just doesn't work for me. And so you want to find that, because I think most people are looking for long-term relationships that they like. Go find it. It's definitely not going to be found doom scrolling right there on your phone and your bedroom.
Yeah, facts. So I want to ask a quick question. I was out of questions, but because you just said that, I have a quick question. So for you as a human, for you as a person, if somebody walks up to you and they want to start a conversation with you, but they're also kind of intimidated, what do you look for in terms of a conversation that makes you go, I rock with you now, you cool people? Like, what do you look for in a conversation or a human being?
Well, I'm much more technology driven, right? So I'm looking for a common interest, right? I'm looking for, hey, we could talk about right now I'm really into baseball. So if you come talk to me about baseball, I'm your friend. If you want to come talk to me about computers, I'm your friend. And so it's kind of figuring out like what it is that interests people, which kind of like you kind of have to like kind of dig around and kind of figure people out. But I find that because I'm not the most outgoing, personable person. As a CISO, I kind of have to be. So I've learned how to do it. But one of the tricks I always learn is like, what kind of questions did they ask me? And then I kind of ask the question back. So, hey, do you have any kids? All right. So I talk to them about my kids and I say, well, do you have any kids? And they're probably asking something that they're interested in. And then as they're talking, you'll go hear other things that they kind of, push into the conversation. And that's something you can, kind of continue with. But I think you're honestly looking for common ground, right? So that you can build that relationship. And I think that's, because I'm probably not going to be the initiator in the conversation just because of how I am. It's very rare that I just initiate. But if people come up to me and they start asking me questions, I answer the questions. But I am also trying to find that common ground so that I can ask them more questions about them and get to know that person too.
First and foremost, go Astros. Go Astros. And then the second piece of that is some people really need to hear this, right? They need to hear you should ask questions back. Because I've been in several situations, especially at tech events, where they're like, oh, where are you from? Texas. Okay, cool.
I mean, it's a killer, right? It just stops the whole conversation. But you're right. I mean, you have to ask a question back. I mean, if you want to talk to people, ask questions back.
Yeah, big facts. That's what a conversation is, y'all. That's how that works. But all right, so we are at time. But yeah, so this is where I say thank you. Thank you. Seriously, thank you, John, for taking the time to talk to us. We know time is currency, so we really hope you feel yours was well spent, and truly endless gratitude, seriously, for dropping your knowledge, your insights, and your story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for hosting me here. And honestly, I really did enjoy the conversation. Thank you for helping me think about my way past, because it was nice. It was nice to have a little nostalgia there. Thank you.
Right on.
Awesome. All right. Well, John, if anyone has questions or would like to get in touch with you for further insights, is there any way you'd like for them to reach you?
Yeah, just send me an email at john@squarex.com, John, John, @sqrx.com, or hit me up on Twitter or X or whatever they call it today at John Carse. So.
Perfect.
Thanks,
all right.
y'all.
For everybody else who might be watching this podcast or tuning in on your favorite podcast resource, thank you for being a part of the show, and I guess we'll see you next time.
Stay wavy.